We have a client that has a failed sump pump discharge line. We're going to run a new sump pump discharge line. There was a boulder in here that was so big, we had to use a cement saw to basically cut a channel in the boulder so we can get the line in. There's 2 trees in the front yard. We have to take this to a leach field. Otherwise, the curb will always be wet and there'll be algae along the road and neighbors will complain. We're putting in a dry well. You can see right here, guys dug a really deep dry well. And we're taking it to a leach field. You want to always have your leach field level, and you always want to be up in the grade so the water can soak into the grade. So the dirt from here to the curb, all that dirt will absorb this water. The chances of there being water running over that curb are really low. We got pretty good perking soil. It's not terrible. It's like a sandy clay, really, but there's veins of sand, and then you finally do get down to clay. So right now the guys are putting an overflow line in. It's a line that has a sock on it, and it is knife cut. It's going to have a pop-up at the curb. That's going to be if the leach field is full. I don't anticipate that to ever happen. I don't foresee it. I don't. So right now Cal's lining the trench with fabric. This is the same fabric that we use for our French drain systems. This is a non-woven geotextile filter fabric that's been double punched. It's our 4-ounce, in case you're wondering. We got the sump line coming in through here. It's going to go into a 48-inch deep, right there. There it is. See how tall it is? It's a 24-inch round. So that dry well is going to be right there. What I like is if we end up with red algae, any kind of sludge in the line, it'll end up in this dry well versus the leach field. You don't want to clog your leach field. So that's why we build them like this. That's why we don't take this line directly to a leach field. I want it to go to the dry well first. If, you know, again, I've seen some iron ochre, iron oak, however you want to pronounce that, you know, just build up and just plug leach fields. So I really highly recommend when you're moving sump pump discharge line water that's from a basement, that water that's down deeper seems to have a lot of iron ochre, iron oak, red algae, whatever you want to call it, however you want to pronounce it. So the guys are also going to line the leach field with the same fabric. You know, this is just a roll of our 5-foot fabric. It's what we always have on the truck because it's what we use for all our French drains. Right now, Dirk has drilled a bunch of holes, perforated the dry well. You can see all the holes. Look at that. All the way around it, 360 degrees. On each wall, guys went ahead, put the 5-foot fabric. Then they'll put a piece at the bottom too. The entire leach field is going to be lined with non-woven geotextile filter fabric. I don't want the dirt to migrate into the stone of the leach field and compromise this leach field. Basically, we want to build our client a leach field that's going to last them a lifetime, and then whoever ends up with this home years down the road doesn't have to worry about this sump pump discharge line water. A lot of people think what we do is overkill, but we believe in doing it right the first time. Then the homeowner doesn't have to be burdened with ever having to address this issue again. All right, so now we have our dry well completely lined. We got our leach field completely lined. This soil's pretty good. We like the dirt in this neighborhood. Yeah, there's some clay, but there's a lot of like sand, gravel in this too. So it's going to work real well. This leach field is going to be great. Notice how the men strategically put the leach field in between the 2 trees, trying to keep it away from the tree roots as best as we possibly can. The trees are there. I mean, aside from cutting them down, I don't know what else to say. You know, we do our best. We set our clients up given what we have for landscape, trees, and challenges, we try to set them up the best way that we possibly can. Now, always put your leach field up in the grade. Don't put it down here because you don't have that much soil to absorb the water. The further upgrade this leach field is, the more soil you're going to have to leach all the water. So now this is going to load up with water and it's going to leach all the way to the street. So Francisco's putting together the leach field manifold. This is our leach field manifold. We got our French drain man external couplers on the end of the manifold. He connected a 45 so that he can connect the line onto it. All right, the guys are hooking knife cut up to the leach field manifold. Always use knife cut on a leach field manifold. You do not have to use sock on your knife cut when you're doing this. The guys will just put end caps. We got these end plugs. We got the HDPE all virgin end plugs that we're going to snap on the ends so that the pipes don't fill up with rock. We want to keep all the pipe for chamber. Those externals will connect the dual wall manifold to the single wall corrugated pipe. The externals are the way you want to go. Always use external connectors when you're doing yard drainage. Never use internal. Internal connectors are for when you're running farm ag and you got to run through a tile plow and the outside coupler would get caught, possibly ripped off. That's where that inside coupler thing came from, but never use inside couplers. If you're a farmer, you're doing farm ag, I understand, I get it. Your equipment is different than ours. So now we're going to run 8 slot in between them. We're just trying to build more chamber. We just want this leach field to hold as much water as we possibly can. The piping is easy to work with. It's super affordable. We can compete for this type of work much better than buying those chambered systems. And for what we're doing here, we don't need anything more than what you see.
right here. Okay.
Yeah, we're good. Thanks, man. Thank you for asking. So this is our overflow line. We plugged the end so stone don't get in. It's knife cut, and it's got a sock on it because we take it right into the existing soil, whatever that may be, depends on the yard. And we put a pop-up at the end. If this thing hits this overflow, it does have an overflow. Everything has been methodically thought about. The level at which the sump pump discharge line goes into the well and the level that the overflow is set at is key. You have to have a group of drainage guys that understand water to get all these marks right. So the height that the sump pump discharge line goes into the dry well is higher than this overflow line that's going to a pop-up. That way the system will always work. It'll be reliable. There's no such thing as it's too full. The French Drainman crew came here with their laser transit, mapped it out, devised a plan based on the elevations. The guys did a beautiful job. They always do. You can just backfill the overflow line with the existing soil if you got a sock on it. That's knife cut though. Don't use saw cut. Always put the leach field in the middle of the yard. And what I mean by that, if you put the leach field down by the curb, you don't have all this soil to absorb the water. So this sump pump discharge line can fill the dry well. It could overflow into the leach field. It's going to saturate all the soil right here. It's also going to saturate all the soil that goes right down to the road. So the men are using a 3-foot fabric because they're used to building these leach fields. They know the size. The men use the 5-foot wide fabric for the walls, and they use a 3-foot wide fabric on top. This is a 4-ounce fabric. They're then going to fold the fabric that's on the walls on top of the 3-foot wide fabric. So it's fully encapsulated. When we put the soil on top, there's no way that the soil can mix in with the stone. This leach field is going to last forever. I also wanted to mention, when you have trees near a dry well, you should put copper sulfate in that dry well a few times a year. A lot of people always want to know, how do you run the pipe out of the fabric? You cut a small hole in the fabric and then you force the pipe through. It forms like a pretty snug fit around the pipe. So the guys covered all the stone. I got to mention some things here. So there's no sprinklers. So you want a lot of dirt on this system because this leach field is going to dry this out during the drought season. The other thing too, it's a good point to raise because Francisco was just talking to me about it. You want the water during hard rains to shed off the system. You don't want it to be catching all the rainwater. So it's good to have a bunch of dirt on top of this. The men ran a new sump pump discharge line. Now they're putting together the landscape, getting the grade together, the backfill. They disassemble the lawn in a way to where it can be systematically and easy. They disassemble the lawn. They go about this methodically so they can reassemble quicker and more efficient. All right, we're right to the end here. You see the sump pump line. Guys got the grass put back together. Dirk is talking to the homeowner, letting her know what has taken place. She's been out a couple of times and he's done the same exact thing as you see him now. Customer service, customer relations. If the customer has questions, just come out and talk to our project manager. Okay, look at this. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. So the guys will cut the grass out. There'll only be this small cover showing, that's it. Everything else will have grass growing over top of it. You won't even be able to tell we were here. Here's our overflow pop-up emitter. I doubt with the percolation of this soil that's ever going to get used. You know, that's just a formality. We just put them in automatically. But the soil here really is decent. This is some of the best dirt that we work in. So always have your leach field high up into the grade so that all that water can leach into all this soil. If you had negative slope and this was high, it'd be just the opposite. But most of the jobs we do are like you see here, where we have, you know, some slope away from the house. And then right here, we finally reach an elevation where the sump line's going to hit the dry well. If we were up any further into the grade, then the sump line would be running uphill to the dry well. That can't happen. You got to have, you know, slope on your discharge line. You got to be downhill where you discharge the water. The guys did a great job. And then they did a wonderful job by putting that leach field right in between the two trees. The only thing you could do more than that, you can spend a lot of money putting in root barrier, but you know, you could see this project cost another $3,500 if you were going to try to do all that. And you know, this already isn't a cheap installation. You know, the guys come in here and, you know, this was a day job for the guys. I mean, it's an early day for the guys because it's 2 o'clock and they're done. So normally we do 2 jobs, but it's getting dark earlier and earlier every day. And we are pretty far from where we dispatch. We're out on the west side. We're over an hour out from where we dispatch from. So the guys will finish cleaning up, putting the sod together here, and head back. They did a beautiful job. Another beautiful job by the French Drainman team. If you found any of this information helpful, give us a thumbs up. It supports the channel. If you have any additional questions regarding a dry well to a leach field, leave them in the comments. I'm your host, Robert Sherwood, and until the next video.